locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Oh, me? Just sitting here, taking a look, another look, I should say, over old Jacob Eberhart's high school tape. Oh, boy, Grayson.
He's a player.
Jacob Eberhart, if you're not familiar with him, get familiar, because this is a recruitment that's trending nicely in OU's favor. Oklahoma picked up a prediction last night from Rivals national recruiting analyst Greg Smith to land Eberhart. Of course, if you're tapped in at OUinsider.com, which there's no reason you shouldn't be, you've known for quite a while that one has been looking strong for Oklahoma. Eberhart is a four-star safety out of Kirkwood, Missouri. That's a suburb of St. Louis, for those that aren't familiar. Number 216 overall prospect in the 2026 cycle, according to Rivals. And a guy that just took his official visit to Oklahoma, the Champ U Barbecue, last weekend. You want to talk about a ceiling, Grayson? This dude's got a really, really high one.
I'm glad we kicked off the show with this because we talked in the 1 o'clock hour about how a guy like Robert Spears Jennings could translate as an NFL draft prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jacob Eberhart has that same sort of play style where he can be very physical in the box. He is a hell of a cover safety with good ball skills, with a lot of good ball skills. Sideline to sideline range, same as RSJ. The one upside he has over RSJ is against the pass. So that's a dude that you can see taking over a few years down the line that not only is a thumper, but a dude that can go take the ball away and get you the ball back. That's the sort of things that can translate to the NFL at a high level, similar to what a guy who was drafted in the first round this year, Malachi Starks, out of Georgia, can come down and play in run support, but also is very, very adept in pass coverage. So Jacob Eberhart, man, he checks all the boxes as a safety, and he's got such great size at 6'2", 215.
He looks amazing.
He looks like he's an SEC safety right now.
If you just press pause on the tape and take a quick glance at the 22 guys on the field, right, on any given clip, it's not that hard to pick out who the Power 4 prospect is, because he sticks out like a sore thumb, man. Eberhart, so for those that haven't been keeping up with this recruitment until very recently, and I wouldn't fault you if you hadn't, because it's been a really quiet recruitment. He's taken official visits to Nebraska, to Illinois, and, oh gosh, who was the other one? I can't even recall for the life of me who the other school that got an OV. Oh, it was Missouri that got an OV from Jacob Eberhart. But Oklahoma had him in town over the weekend for the Champ U Barbecue, and a decision, I'm told, is expected in early to mid-July. So we're not much more than a couple more weeks away from learning where Jacob Eberhart's going to be playing his college football. What a huge addition this would be for Brandon Hall, man, because this isn't and never has projected to be a class where Oklahoma would go especially heavy at safety. But if your safety class consists of Eberhart and Nico Jandro, two very different players, man, but two players that you feel like both have the individual potential to be really, really, really good in your uniform within a few years.
That's a fun little 1-2. And also,
couple of hitters, man. Couple of headhunters.
Yes, exactly where I was going. A couple of headhunters, but a couple of guys who are very good in coverage and very comfortable in space. Also, and I just love how we can translate between our 12-2 and our 2-3 here. Present a ton of versatility positionally. because of his size in particular, but also because he can play against the run and play against the pass. Jacob Eberhart, if need be, could play Cheetah. Would that be the original plan? No. We talked about that yesterday. Nico Jandro is more naturally a Cheetah. So there's so much positional versatility with these two that if they make up the safety class in 2026, I think you've hit it out of the park. You don't need to bring in 3 safeties. You don't need to bring in 4. You hit it out of the park with these two, with their combination of size and skill set. You've got a lot to work with.
Jacob Eberhart just looks a lot like the next Robert Spears-Jennings.
Pretty much.
And if you watched Robert Spears-Jennings in high school, the stuff that Eberhart's doing on Friday night is very reminiscent of the stuff that Spears-Jennings would do at Broken Arrow High School. He plays wide receiver, plays a lot of offense, plays very well on that side of the ball. Robert Spears-Jennings, similarly, was a guy that had a lot more power for interest as a wide receiver than he did as a defensive back. In fact, I believe Oklahoma was the only school, maybe Texas Tech as well, but Oklahoma was the only major contender for his services that wanted him on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody else wanted him to play wide receiver, and I don't give credit to Alex Grinch often, but I will give credit to Alex Grinch here. Alex Grinch worked Robert Spears-Jennings out and said, nope, you're a safety. Come to Oklahoma and play defensive back. A month later, Robert Spears-Jennings committed to OU. And he's emerged as a pretty dang solid safety that's probably going to the NFL after this coming season. And so Oklahoma already has Michael Boganowski in line to kind of be the very next Robert Spears-Jennings, that big-bodied roaming safety that's going to come down and be a force in run support as well. But if you're stacking Boganowski on top of Spears-Jennings and Eberhart on top of Boganowski, I don't know whether Brandon Hall gets the public credit that he probably deserves for being as good of a recruiter as he is. This is a guy that's done exceptional work since he got to Oklahoma. Just ensuring, first and foremost, when he showed up in December of 21, that Robert Spears-Jennings stayed locked in with Oklahoma because there were other schools that were pressing to flip him at that point with how everything had gone down with Lincoln Riley. The 23 class, man, landing Peyton Bowen was such an ordeal for that entire coaching staff, but Brandon Hall most specifically, because he was the guy that was leading the charge. That went all the way up till signing day, beyond signing day. The very tail end of the signing period was finally when Peyton Bowen flipped from Notre Dame to Oregon to Oklahoma and finally signed with the Sooners. That was there was as much travail in that recruitment as there has been in recent years over any singular player that OU has pursued. But it worked out. They get Peyton Bowen. The following year, man, what a haul. Boganowski, Jaden Hardy, a guy that doesn't get near enough pub, in my mind, in Reggie Powers, that could very well give Oklahoma plenty of meaningful snaps at both safety and Cheetah this fall. And then going and owning the state of Arkansas in 2025 with Amarian Robinson and Marcus Wimberly. To follow that up in 26 with Nico Jandro and potentially Jacob Eberhart. Hello. That'll do.
Now, Peyton Bowen still has 2 years of eligibility left, this year included. Mm-hmm. We've talked at length of what could be the future at strong safety and sort of Cheetah as well. What's the future at free safety? Where Peyton Bowen's obviously going to follow up Billy Bowman. What after him? Where do you think that side goes?
So that's the strong.
That is the strong safety.
Yeah, that is the strong safety.
Pardon me. I got that mixed up.
Yeah, no. So the future of the strong safety position, as I understand it, the Sooners have designs on their next great strong safety being Jaden Hardy. Now, Hardy's got some work to do. He's not quite there yet. Amarian Robinson is another guy that's coming up that you'd expect to be in the mix there before too long, and even potentially a little bit as a true freshman. You saw Boganowski get snaps last year as a freshman. You saw Reggie Powers get a few here and there. Certainly Hardy as well, playing not only strong safety but cheetah. And so Hardy, the belief and the expectation is that Hardy is next at that spot after Peyton Bowen. I'm not so sure that Hardy's not going to have his hands full with Amarian Robinson when that day comes. Peyton Bowen's a talented enough dude that if everything goes according to plan this fall and he has a breakout campaign, that might be all it takes for him to vault into day 2 consideration as an NFL draft pick and leave a year early. That's very much on the table. If you ask me right now whether he's back in 26, I would say yeah. If for no other reason, even if everything does go according to plan and he does have NFL draft stock, I think he'll want to run it back with his brother one last time. So I would lean towards him being back in 2026. But between Jaden Hardy and Amarian Robinson, I think those are the two that you're looking at as the future of that position right now.
405-651-3439 on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. A texter in the 405 asks, is there a world in which we see Powers, Boganowski, and Hardy on the field at the same time?
Yes, there is. Probably not this year, unless it's in garbage time. But I think next season, there's a very real scenario in which you have Powers at cheetah, Boganowski at the free safety, Hardy at the strong safety. Yeah, absolutely. You could see all three of those on the field at once. They're all three good enough. I just don't know whether there will come a time this fall where Oklahoma has reason to put all three on the field, or that trust enough to put all three on the field at the same time. Be great if that came to fruition, but I think you're going to want some guys because they're all true sophomores, or sophomores to be. I guess Powers is going to be a redshirt freshman. I don't think he burned a year of eligibility last year, but if you're putting a younger guy out there on the field, generally you're going to want him surrounded with other experienced guys to help point things out to him and just generally give him guidance, give him support, and make sure that he's not on an island out there. So you will see all three this fall individually, make no mistake. I do not know whether you will see all three at the same time. A 918 listener asks, what are the thoughts and beliefs in playing time for Kendall Daniels? Which positions? So Kendall Daniels, he's going to play a lot of cheetah. That's my expectation right now. And
as he should.
Yeah, and I think he'll also play a bit of inside linebacker. And who knows what happens in fall camp. The great thing about a guy like Daniels and the versatility he offers is that if you experience injuries, if you have guys hurt, if you have guys banged up, then Daniels is a guy that could plug a hole here or there or a bunch of different spots. So the more chess pieces you have like that, the better off you're going to be. Man, genuinely, when you look at Eberhart, to circle back around to the origin of this conversation, and what he would bring to Oklahoma's class at the safety spot, being easily the most ballyhooed addition in that group. And that's no knock on Nico Jandro, but that's just kind of reality. Jacob Eberhart's commitment, if it does go in Oklahoma's favor, will come with a lot more press than that of Nico Jandro's because he has that 4-star classification next to his name. And OU would beat out some pretty big-time programs for his pledge. But where would you rank him amongst the landscape of current commits? Is he top 3? Is he top 5? Like, in the pantheon of Oklahoma's 2026 class, where does he fall?
Ooh, this is a good question. I'm gonna go with impact and importance when I do this. So he would be behind Bo Bentley, I think. I think he would be behind Noah Best. I would go 4 to 7 range. Because this is a dude with an insane amount of upside. And you just use the operative word when talking about Kendall Daniels. Chess piece. I think because of his range and his size and his ball skills, he can be the ultimate chess piece. A guy where you have no idea where he's lining up in the defensive backfield. and that makes it very hard to game plan for. It also makes it easier for you as a defense to disguise information. So I think if you move around a guy like that, he could have a real impact. So I would go for sure behind Best and Bentley. I'd probably go behind Brian Harris right now because I think what they're doing with defensive end in this class is otherworldly insane right now. Like, I got to give it up to Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis for that one. That they are doing work in the 2026 class. But right after you get behind them, that would be where I would slide Jacob Eberhart.
I think there's a case to be made that if he commits, he is immediately Oklahoma's most important defensive commit to date. It all kind of depends on what you value. Do you value trench play more? Do you value play in the defensive backfield more? If you value trench play more, at least as Oklahoma's roster stands right now, I think you're going to lean Brian Harris in that conversation. If your thought is, okay, well, the trenches are taken care of a lot more so than the defensive backfield is right now, then I think you probably place greater importance on the addition of Eberhart. Either way, if Oklahoma picks him up, man, top 2 commit to date on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's pretty indisputable. And again, we should know within 2 to 3 weeks whether Eberhart is indeed going to be a member of Oklahoma's 2026 class. And I like the Sooners a lot right now, where they stand in that recruitment. Okay, one segment down here in this 2 o'clock hour, brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Make the trip out there and let them get you set up with one of the most reliable trucks and or SUVs on the road today. Take advantage of their half-price oil changes on Saturdays as well, thanks to Dorsey Jones GMC for their partnership with us here on Locked In. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line open to you throughout the show at 405-651-3439. Keep it right here on the Ref. We'll be back with more next.
For over 20 years, Purple Wave Auction has been the trusted leader in online auctions, offering the easiest way to buy and sell equipment. From bulldozers to backhoes and combines to cranes, we host multiple weekly auctions in construction, ag, and fleet equipment. With our no reserve format and sell where it sits approach, you can bid on local equipment without waiting for far off auction dates. Get registered for free and start bidding today at purplewave.com.
Oklahoma DRS helps job seekers with disabilities become taxpayers.
Their whole thing is to help people with disabilities go back to work.
They knew that I would be successful if I did not give up.
They have given me the power and confidence to face any challenge.
I'm just glad that, DRS was there. Empower yourself. Talk to DRS Vocational Rehabilitation.
Or services for the blind today.
OKDRS.gov. 800-487-4042.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Mathew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
Imagine one step, and suddenly a fall turns into a fracture. For many, osteoporosis is a hidden threat, weakening bones silently until it's too late. At the Ortho Central Bone Health Clinic, we believe in personalized care to keep bones strong and resilient. Led by advanced practitioner Amanda Boyd, our team specializes in detection and personalized treatment plans, from bone density testing to strengthening bones after a fracture. Take charge of your bone health today. Call Ortho Central's Bone Health Clinic and let's build better bones together.
For decades, Moore Norman Tech has been training skilled and dedicated individuals, giving clear career paths to hundreds of graduates a year. These passionate individuals are the heartbeat of the Oklahoma workforce, serving thousands of companies that fuel this state's economy. Individuals like you. Here's to the next generation of entrepreneurs, craftsmen, and go-getters who will shape the future of this state. Oklahoma is powered by Career Tech.
What's up, Ref Army? Dari Noka here, the SEC Network, and your newest host here at the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Starting June 30th, spend your late mornings with me and Josh Helmer every weekday from 9 to noon as we talk everything Sooners, and I'll help you all keep tabs on what's happening in the rest of the SEC. Whether it's on the plains of Auburn, the swamp in Gainesville, or right here in Norman, we've got you covered every weekday from 9 to noon on the Ref and worldwide on the KREF app. That's every weekday for the Dari Noka Show from 9 to noon on the Ref and worldwide on the KREF app.
Landmark Fine Homes is a custom home builder in Oklahoma City. Our commitment is to build energy-efficient, custom-quality crafted homes around the metro OKC area. If you are looking to build your first home or last, Landmark Fine Homes is the builder for you. We have many floor plans to choose from, or bring us one that you already have. We have communities throughout the metro, or we will build on your lot. Call 405-347-5991 and let Landmark Fine Homes help turn your dreams into a reality.
At Meals on Wheels of Norman, we deliver more than just meals. We deliver connection, compassion, and care to homebound seniors right here in our community. But we need your help. Volunteer drivers are the heart of what we do, and just a little of your time can make a big impact. Join our team, make a difference. Visit MealsOnWheelsNorman.com or contact us at 405-321-7272 to sign up as a volunteer and start serving smiles today.
Recruiting talk aplenty on today's installment of Locked In here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line is 405-651-3439 if you want to make your voice heard. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton here in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. A couple of decisions that did not go OU's way this morning, Grayson, and not a huge shock in either case, but Oklahoma had hosted four-star offensive lineman Desmond Green from the state of South Carolina for an official visit at the beginning of the month. He committed to Florida earlier today over OU, Georgia, and South Carolina. OU had been a fringe contender for four-star offensive lineman Drew Evers out of Flower Mound, Texas, younger brother of former Oklahoma quarterback Nick Evers, who is now at the University of Connecticut. They never hosted him for an OV, but he had them in his top six, reaffirmed many a time that he was actively considering Oklahoma and just didn't really feel the need to take an OV because he'd been around the program a ton over the past 4 years and knew effectively all that there is to know about OU. But he decided on SMU earlier today, which was a bit of a surprise. Ohio State and Texas A&M both felt pretty good about where they sat in that recruitment, but it does wind up being SMU for Drew Evers, so he will stay local. That creates a bit of a quandary for Oklahoma on the offensive line, Grayson, because in the last 72 hours, the Sooners have watched Devin Robeson commit to TCU, three-star target from Pasadena, Texas, so he's off the board to the Horned Frogs. Evers goes with the Ponies, and Desmond Green's headed to the Swamp. Oklahoma has one interior offensive line commit in Desmond, or not in, I almost said Desmond Best. Why? I don't have a clue. Noah Best.
He definitely doesn't look like a Desmond.
Noah Best is the Oklahoma Sooners' only interior offensive line commit to date. Of course, they lost a pledge from longtime commit Will Conroy last week. He flipped to North Carolina. And they look good. They look like the favorite to land Deacon Schmidt this Saturday. I've long favored OU in that recruitment. I think they get it done with him. He's going to decide between OU, Alabama, and Colorado. And so that would be commit number 2. But if you wrap up OV season with only 2 offensive line commits, feels like you're a little bit shorthanded, doesn't it?
Oh, no. It definitely feels like a lean class at offensive line, which is a position where you want to be stock full of depth because of the nature of that position with guys, not just with guys transferring, but the nature of the position of guys getting hurt is one thing. So you want to have as much quality depth, or to borrow from Brent Venables last year, competitive depth on that offensive line. And right now you only have one guy. That's a problem. The recent developments also place an enormous importance, on Deacon Schmidt. That has to be locked down. That's one that you've got to monitor and say, you got to make sure that Colorado's not upping the ante. Make sure other people who are trying to steer him one way or the other that isn't Norman aren't getting in his good graces and raising his eyeballs toward them. Because this is a dude that you need at this point. Because, again, on the offensive line in its entirety, you have one commit. You got one.
Mm-hmm.
And you just lost out on two others that are going to be pretty good. So, look, you're a little bit closer to being okay panicking with this one. Now, did you just sign a pretty damn good offensive line recruiting class a year ago? Yes, you did. Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foje, are those guys going to can their presence sort of mitigate a leaner class this year? Potentially. But you got to remember, there's some outbound talent after this year as well due to eligibility. So if they can scoop up Deacon Schmidt and maybe get one or two more, okay, all is resolved, all is good. But if you're going into the season and your only commits in the 2026 class are Noah Best and presumably Deacon Schmidt, you might be doing some re-evals during the year. Maybe time to circle back around to Daniel McMorris.
Ooh, hello. Colin Claremore asks, what does a Desmond look like, Pickle Boy?
I don't look like a Desmond either. Probably not.
What would your name be if it wasn't Grayson?
I hate this exercise so much.
What if people told you look like?
We haven't done this since I was a child.
Really?
Yeah. It's funny because one of my best friends who also is black. His name is Ryan.
Ryan.
Yes.
I tell you, man, that I don't know if this happened or has happened to you as much as it has happened to me, but you get that occasional weird individual who without any context will just be like, you look like a so and so. You look like your name should be fill in the blank. It's happened a startling amount to me over the years.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Because you look like a Parker.
I'll take that. I am a Parker, so
it
works out.
Your name fits you.
My name is Parker. Zero Star Joe on the text line asked, what happened with Tony Jefferson's little brother? He's committing tomorrow between Oklahoma, Arizona, and Utah. I think the Sooners are going to get that one done. We'll see if he's immediately eligible to join Oklahoma and advance the 2025 season. I know that's something that he wants to do at his school of choice. He wants to join them straight away and play in 2025, which naturally that would provide a pretty solid lift to Oklahoma, more stability, more options in that tight end room. Gosh, Evan from Blanchard said, not worried. We can always pluck a Spencer Brown type out of the portal in a couple years. I hate that text, Evan. Please never send it again.
It's always funny because whenever somebody says Spencer Brown, my mind goes to the Spencer Brown that plays for the Buffalo Bills first.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Who's actually
the good Spencer Brown.
Who's actually pretty damn good.
Just to kind of close the loop on the whole offensive line conversation, because you mentioned Noah Best they have committed. Deacon Schmidt, it looks like they're going to get him, and that's two, and you probably feel like you need more than two. Let's take a look at what Oklahoma's depth chart looks like. And this is not depth chart. I guess this is more of what the roster looks like at offensive line and who's going to be done after this year. So the new guys in the equation this year are the four true freshmen, Fasusi, Foje, Darius Afalava, Owen Hollenbeck. But also the three transfers, Luke Baklenko, Derek Simmons, and Jake Michaela. Of those three, only Simmons graduates. Febechi Wiwu is graduating. Troy Everett is graduating. That's it. So you're only losing three guys for certain. But one of the things you can count on every single year is that you will have offensive linemen that transfer. Because there's not going to be enough playing time for everybody. There's not going to be playing time, period, for everybody. And some guys are going to get disillusioned, and they're going to want a fresh start. I mean, I'm trying not to speculate, but I think if you look at that offensive line group right now, one guy that you feel like if things don't go according to plan for him in 2025, if he continues to struggle to see the field, he might be out of the picture and looking to play elsewhere in 2026 would be Jake Taylor, who's going into his redshirt junior year and has gotten to play a little bit at Oklahoma, but I don't know that anybody's projecting him into the starting five right now. I think the consensus opinion is that it's going to be Jake Sexton at left tackle, Derek Simmons at right tackle. So what happens if Jake Taylor is only seeing the field sporadically in 2025? Is he looking to play somewhere else in 26?
But here's the thing that you left out, too. Not only are guys going to transfer, dudes are going to get hurt, too.
Mm-hmm.
Having a completely healthy offensive line through 12, 13 games probably is a pipe dream. So you got to have dudes behind them. You have to realistically plan on how many offensive linemen did Oklahoma play last year?
I lost count. They played a lot of offensive linemen.
Not as
in a lot of different combinations.
You're not going to plan on playing that many offensive linemen.
Certainly
Again,
not.
They played, 12?
Yeah, if you play that many offensive linemen, you're just kind of screwed one way or another.
You've got more problems than just the players at that point. But you should reasonably count on playing in meaningful snaps. Let's just put it at 8. I don't think that seems far-fetched. So do you have 8 dudes, and since we're talking about the 2026 recruiting cycle, do you have 8 dudes, let's just say for 2027, that you're going to feel comfortable playing? That's the equation you're looking at when you're talking about coming out of official visit season with only 2 offensive line commits if Deacon Schmidt goes your way.
I think here's the way you do it. At least this is the way I figure it. You plan for, if you're talking about offensive line specifically, you plan to lose all of your graduates plus 2. It's kind of the way I conceptualize it. Obviously, all of your graduates are done at season's end one way or another, and then you can typically count on 2 transfers. It might be 1, it might be 3. I think 2 is what you plan for. And so if we're just looking at those numbers, 3 graduates plus you account for 2 transfers, probably going to need to bring in 5 offensive linemen, at least if you want to keep the numbers the same. And Oklahoma, between Schmidt, whom, again, we're just projecting into Oklahoma's class right now. He hasn't verbally committed, but if it's Schmidt and Best at the end of June, it's only 2. And here's where I need to bring up the reality that paying for transfer offensive linemen is freaking expensive.
It's a lot more expensive than getting them out of high school.
It is really freaking expensive. Trust me. It's not my place to do so, so I won't. But if I were to make y'all aware of the number that Oklahoma had to pay to get Jake Michael on board, you'd be like, holy smokes, that's a ton of money. And he's a guy that has starting experience at the P4 level, hasn't been like an all-conference guy, but he's a guy that started, has some versatility, valuable pickup. Even so, the number that Oklahoma had to fork over to get Jake Michael his services, it would probably pop a few eyeballs because that's just the nature of the market right now. You want to find a guy that has played meaningful college football before and played at a high level, you're going to spend a lot more money than it would take to get that same guy 3 years ahead of the curve when he's coming out of high school.
And we still haven't broached this part of the conversation, and that's the intangible of continuity. There is real value in guys who grow up together through the same system, under the same offensive line coach. Now, in this era of college football, will you certainly have to piece things together from the portal? Yes. But you don't want to be having 4 new offensive linemen in your starting 5 that are all from different corners of the country. I don't think, even though you'll have your spring and you'll have your fall camp prior to the season, that's not the most ideal circumstance to go into, as opposed to dudes who you recruited and you kept on board, and they've been growing together and hanging together and talking together, because that stuff translates to the football field when you know how somebody else communicates.
Chris from Knoxville says, aren't past light O-line classes while relying on transfers lend a hand into one of many offensive struggles from last season? Well, what do you mean when you say light O-line classes? Because if we're talking numbers, Oklahoma hasn't had a light O-line class since the 2022 cycle, and that's because At that point, Lincoln Riley was micromanaging numbers. The Sooners only took 2 in 2022 because it was kind of by Riley's design that they went light that year. Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor were the two that they signed. They had a third committed for quite a while, Demetrius Hunter. I think he wound up at Houston, if I'm not mistaken. But it was him, it was Jake Taylor, and it was Jake Sexton for the longest time. Since then, Oklahoma signed 4 offensive linemen in the 2023 cycle. They signed 5 offensive linemen in the 2024 cycle, and they signed 4 offensive linemen in the 2025 cycle. So, no, they have not gone light with their O-line classes in recent years. But they have had to bring in a steady stream of transfers just to kind of solidify everything, and I think that's just kind of one of the expectations that you have to have these days on the offensive line in particular, because that is a position where you're going to see a pretty high rate of turnover. Again, I think every year you can pretty much count on at least 2 outbound transfers, if not more. And so even if you don't feel like you need a guy to come in and start right away, you're always going to need to be bringing in additional bodies. And if you're going to be bringing in additional bodies, you'd at least like those guys to be able to start and to feel confident that they can start. A guy like Jake Michaela is a great example of this. When Oklahoma brought him in, there wasn't the thought that Oklahoma has to have a starter on the interior offensive line because you had 3 guys returning to fill their old roles. Heath Ozida at left guard, Troy Everett at center, Fabechi Wiwu at right guard. But the line of thinking was, if we're going to go get another interior offensive lineman, let's at least go and find a guy that's good enough to be able to challenge for a starting role at one or multiple of those interior positions. And that's why Michaela fit the bill for Oklahoma.
Let me read this text real fast. Denver from Indiana says, sounds like Joe John Finley is rubbing off on Bill Bedenbaugh. Speaking of, by the way, Joe John Finley, let's give him credit for holding on to Ryder Mix.
And he has held on to Ryder Mix for a long, long time, over a year now.
Yeah, let's give him credit for that. But also, haven't heard a lot about Tyler Ruxer lately. I know his commitment date is July 7th, so it's still about a week or so off. I don't know.
Not a lot to report there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a Sooner. I've heard nothing to make me think otherwise. So I like Oklahoma right there. And Ruxer and Mix, I don't know if this has been talked about at all. Mostly because, well, you actually have to get Ruxer on board before you take it to the bank. But Tyler Ruxer plus Ryder Mix is Oklahoma's best haul at tight end in forever. Forever. How long has it been since Oklahoma signed 2 tight ends as good as those guys in the same cycle? The last time they signed 2 tight ends in the same cycle, period, was 2022, and I was a big fan of Caden Helms, who obviously has had his career somewhat derailed by injuries, but the other guy they signed was Jason Llewellyn, which it never seemed he was destined for much of anything at Oklahoma and was here for a couple of years, wound up transferring to Texas Tech. But I can't think offhand of the last time Oklahoma signed 2 tight ends in the same class as good as those 2. Mix and Ruxer, that is a haul if Joe John Finley pulls it off. 405-651-3439. You have any questions you need answer, any thoughts you would like to share with us, by all means, send them our way on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll be back to wrap up Locked In on the other side with one more segment of OU Recruiting Talk. You're listening to The Ref. This is the Home of Sooner Fans.
Hey, this is Michael Vasucci. You're listening to The Ref, the Home of Sooner Fans.
Beats and Bites Festival is back again at Riverwind Casino. Dance all night at the I Want My 80s tour on July 19th, featuring Rick Springfield, John Waite, Paul Young, and Wang Chung. Along with crave-worthy eats from local food trucks. Get your tickets online or at the box office for just $10. Only at Riverwind Casino.
For the professional,
It's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Mike Steele here for Lasher Home Comfort Systems, your trusted home comfort experts in the Oklahoma City metro area. Tim Lasher and his team have more than 130 years of combined experience. They recognize a significant number of homeowners live with inadequate home comfort systems. They specialize in diagnosing your home system issues while providing more efficiency and reducing your utility costs. As an authorized dealer of American Standard, Tim can service your residence or business. Call Tim and his team at 405-579-3113. Lasher Home Comfort Systems.
Every day, 32 people in the U.S. lose their lives in crashes involving a drunk driver. That's one life every 45 minutes.
The victims aren't just numbers. They are mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters whose lives are forever changed.
From life-threatening injuries to years of recovery, the aftermath of a drunk driving crash can be devastating. If you or a loved one have been hurt by a drunk driver, you don't have to face it alone. Call McIntyre Law at 405-777-7000.
Introducing Janiking, the greatest team to ever clean. We take pride in maintaining spotless environments, allowing local businesses to shine better than ever before. With our cutting-edge technology and expert team, we ensure every nook and cranny is pristine at Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. That's right, Janiking is proud to be a partner of OU football and OU athletics. For commercial cleaning services, go to janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com. Janiking, the king of clean, and go Sooners.
Are you looking for luxury apartments for rent in Norman? The Falls at Brookhaven offers stunning apartments and a well-maintained, calm atmosphere. Enjoy our landscaping, a swim in the pool, or take your pet for a walk in one of our 2 dog parks. Our spacious outdoor areas and state-of-the-art amenities will make this new home feel like a resort. All this can be right outside of your door when you live at the Falls at Brookhaven. Call our locally owned and operated community at 405-701-8233 or go online to thefallsatbrookhaven.com to view our spacious floor plans.
As we wonder why our kids are struggling, someone is getting bullied. As we discuss how to improve their mental health, someone is being harassed on social media. As we wonder why they're skipping school, someone is crying themselves to sleep. Knowing the signs is the best way to prevent bullying.
Please just leave me alone.
Learn the signs at sandyhookpromise.org.
It's that time of year to get to the ballpark, and that's something to smile about. Craig and Straight Orthodontics wants to help you and your family every step of the way to a beautiful smile. Craig and Straight has 3 conveniently located offices in Norman, Mustang, and South Oklahoma City. Check out their website at craigandstraight.com or give them a call to schedule your free consultation. You'll soon be on your way to a smile that you have always wanted. At Craig and Straight Orthodontics, we want to see you smile, Oklahoma.
Okay, let's run down the rest of what you can expect this week into the weekend when it comes to OU recruiting. There's a commitment happening in hours, if not minutes. It's supposed to be this afternoon that we find out where 4-star wide receiver Craig Dandridge is heading. Everything points to Georgia there, so I expect him to be a dog. Oklahoma made a good run. It looks like they're going to wind up finishing second, and small consolation, but I will bring this up, Grayson. Finishing second means more than it ever has in today's environment.
Absolutely.
So, would you like to have had Dandridge? Yeah, but knowing that you finished second is some consolation at the very least. I do expect him to commit to Georgia. Tomorrow, we have the decision from 3-star junior college tight end Josiah Jefferson. Oklahoma, Arizona, Utah. I would be very surprised if it is not Oklahoma tomorrow for Jefferson. Would be a big ad for Oklahoma. The question is, I guess, and I do believe if he were to be eligible for the 2025 season, he would therefore qualify as a member of Oklahoma's class of 2025 as opposed to 2026. But Tyler Ruxer, Ryder Mix, Josiah Jefferson all together. It's the summer of tight ends at the University of Oklahoma. Joe John Finley redemption arc. Here we go.
You know, speaking of that, one-star Colin Claremore said, can we not praise a coach for holding on to someone who's committed? That's an expectation, not a miracle worthy of praise. It's not like the kid is that highly rated.
Okay.
That's how you know the bar is set very low for Joe John Finley.
By the way, the other event on the timeline going into the weekend is obviously Deacon Schmidt's commitment announcement on Saturday between Oklahoma, Alabama, Colorado. Looks like it's going to be the Sooners for the Windsor, Colorado Blue Chipper. On that comment regarding Ryder Mix, it's not like the kid is that highly rated.
He's a 4-star.
Keep in mind, I want you to understand this as I make this point. Ryder Mix shut his recruitment down last June, following his sophomore year of high school, which means he will have played his entire junior and senior years committed to the University of Oklahoma before he signs with the program. But at the time that Ryder Mix shut his recruitment down, these were offers that he already had. And keep in mind, he plays the tight end position when I rattle off this list of schools. Tennessee, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Arizona State, Wisconsin. It was not Oklahoma and a bunch of scrubs in Ryder Mix's recruitment. I mean, the two that really jump out at you are Ohio State and Oregon, but Penn State? Penn State is one of the premier destinations in the country right now for tight ends.
Mm-hmm. Wisconsin ain't bad either.
Ohio State beat you out for Nate Roberts. Came into your backyard last year and beat you out for Nate Roberts. So, to get him committed in the first place is impressive enough. But, yeah, absolutely. Joe John Finley deserves some credit for holding on to that pledge because Ryder Mix is a legitimately premium player at a position where you have very few premium players. And there are schools that have kept trying, but he's all in with Oklahoma. It helps that he's a legacy. I'll acknowledge that. Helps that his dad played baseball here at Oklahoma in the early 2000s. Sooner287 says, after the 2 wide receivers and 1 tight end committed to Miami yesterday, that has to help OU with Zach Turner, right? So with Zach Turner, who is, of course, I guess what you would categorize as a jumbo pass catcher from Duncanville, Texas. Blue chipper, 6'3", 205 pounds. He's a guy that a lot of schools like at tight end, including Miami. Oklahoma has recruited Zach Turner as a wide receiver to this point. They see him as a wide receiver that can line up pretty much anywhere in their offense. So, you know what? Here's an interesting comparison. And it's a bit of a niche comparison because he was only here at Oklahoma for 1 year. But Oklahoma sees Zach Turner being the type of guy that perhaps someone like Mikey Henderson was at Oklahoma in 2020. I don't even know if you remember Mikey Henderson. If you weren't covering the team and or watching every Oklahoma football game at the time, you'd have no reason to remember Mikey Henderson. He got dismissed from the program in April 2021 for being part of the Seth McGowan Trajan Bridges posse.
Yes.
So, unless you watched Oklahoma football very intently in 2020, you don't really have a frame of reference for who Mikey Henderson was as a football player. But that was his true freshman year at Oklahoma. He saw the field a ton. Lined up at tight end, lined up at wide receiver, both outside and in the slot, even lined up at running back on occasion. That's what Oklahoma wants Zach Turner to do. They want him to show up and do everything in their offense. Miami has said, you are a tight end, you will come here, you will play tight end. And the reason things seem to be trending in Miami's favor of late is because, well, Miami has deeper pockets. I think we all understand that that is the reality. When we're talking about the programs that Oklahoma has the capacity to go up against, in a financial sense, Miami is unfortunately not one of them.
So,
because they are on the absolute top tier in the sport.
This is an interesting one because this is the first time I'm going to say this on these here airwaves.
Okay.
It sounds like the better football decision is to come to Oklahoma.
Well, and that's what the Sooners are counting on.
And you know me. I'm not one of these people who will accuse or bemoan 18-year-olds who come from backgrounds that we have no idea what they are for going and getting the most money they can. I'm not going to be one of those people. But it certainly looks like there's a stark contrast between what Oklahoma offers and what Miami offers based on what you just said right there. Now, the next question becomes, because also in that top 3, top 5, lies SMU, Oklahoma's arch nemesis in the 2026 recruiting class. Does SMU fall into the happy medium of both of those, where it's a great football situation and he can make an exorbitant amount of dollars? And where does SMU lie in all of this? Because now all the intel has pointed Miami with Oklahoma second. Where does SMU fall into all of this?
Third. They're third. It's an OU-Miami battle. I mean, I guess you can't entirely rule SMU out, but they're playing from behind right now. What Oklahoma's counting on is that in the days leading up to his decision, Zach Turner will eschew the higher financial offer and come to Oklahoma where he can be utilized in a more varied capacity than he will be at Miami. Now, the original question was whether the 2 wide receivers and 1 tight end that committed to Miami yesterday are going to have any impact on Turner's process. I don't believe so, but no doubt that will be something that OU puts in front of Zach Turner. Hey, look, there's a bunch of other guys that they're recruiting to throw the ball to. Is there going to be as much of a role for you there as there will be here with everything we want you to do? And obviously, again, Oklahoma has 1 tight end committed. It may be 2 once Tyler Ruxer makes his announcement on July 7th. They've already got 1 wide receiver committed, and they're looking to take 4. So Oklahoma is similarly going for a pretty significantly sized contingent of pass catchers in the 26 cycle, but Zachary Turner is a guy for whom they have a very unique plan. And so that is critical, foundational to the pitch that they're going to set in front of him over the next week and a half until he makes his decision. So it's OU or it's Miami. That's how I see it. The Waffler says, Mikey Henderson was going to be a beast at HVAC. I believe he meant HVAC. I think that's talk to text.
I would hope so.
That's probably what Mikey Henderson's doing these days. I bet he's a beast working HVAC. But the Waffler brought up that he ended up being a receiver at some small Texas school and not playing. Did he wind up at Tarleton State? I'm trying to think. I lost track of that kid at some point. I think it was Tarleton that he wound up at.
That would classify as a small school in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Aren't they going FBS here soon?
I think so.
Yeah, they're FCS right now, but I think they're going FBS before too long.
You know, since we're on the topic, and we certainly haven't mentioned this in months now, whatever happened with Trajan Bridges?
I stopped paying attention. I don't know. I don't think he has landed anywhere because, again, I think he's out of eligibility.
Oh, that's right.
Until he gets his eligibility reinstated, I don't think he can play anywhere this fall. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll check back in on that whole situation this afternoon, but I haven't heard anything in quite a while on the Trajan Bridges front. 4 or 5 listeners says, Henderson out there slinging AC units with Jason White. Yeah, I read that from the Waffler. I thought that was a workforce joke.
Mm-hmm.
Chris from Knoxville said, you are correct, Parker, Tarleton State. There you go. Pulled that one out of the deep recesses of the memory hole. Mikey Henderson at Tarleton State. Outlaw Devil wants to know, are there any in-state O-linemen worth a look? Well, there's one that's definitely worth a look.
He is committed to Minnesota right now.
More than worth a look. But he's a tackle. I guess the natural question that arises moving forward for Oklahoma, They've got a skinny O-line class to date, to say the very least, is do they want to take another tackle? Because all of the guys that have come off the board to other programs in recent days, all the guys that Oklahoma OV'd, all the guys that they wanted in their 2026 class, they've all been guards.
Interior line.
Dudes. Drew Evers, Desmond Green, Devin Robeson, all interior players. And so it would appear that the desire is much more pressing from Oklahoma's side to add another interior guy than another tackle. And Daniel McMorris, as many things he is, the farthest thing from an interior guy.
He cannot be a guard.
No, he is a tackle all the way. So it'll be interesting to see how Oklahoma plays their hand going into the fall, because I do think they're going to look to add at least one more interior offensive lineman. Who that may be, that is, as of yet, unclear. But we're done for today here on Locked In. Tyler McComas and Teddy Lehman take over next with a Thursday installment of The Rush. For Grayson Singleton, I'm Parker Thune. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, for more OU Cruton talk right here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Take it easy.